Hey everybody, Alex here, and welcome to another video. Take 3. So, no walk-off or walk-on, no cracking of a Diet Coke, and I'm filming this one during the day. So, for this video, I thought, truthfully, I was telling somebody the other day that when it comes to my memory, when it comes to me remembering things, and instances and funny conversations and events in my life, it's very strange because it's like a trigger. Like, something will happen and it will make me think about an instance or an event or what have you, right? So in this case, it was takeout Chinese food. I have no idea why. Out of nowhere, this would trigger this particular memory. Now, honestly, yes, takeout Chinese food is involved in this particular memory, but of all the memories, like, this is the one? Who knew? So we're talking about the Xbox 360. The Xbox 360, I honestly had no interest in originally. I had an original Xbox. My uncle had purchased it for me for one Christmas, I'm going to say I started not to get out of gaming, but I became less and less interested in it. And honestly, I only had like 3 games on it. I had Shenmue 2, I had Ninja Gaiden, and I think one of the King of Fighters games, or SNK versus Capcom. It was one or the other. And that was it. Like, I really had no interest in it. Otherwise, didn't bother with Conquer, Halo, anything. So, fast forward all the way to my professional life. It's round about the year 2011. And I only know that because I had to look it up. And there is this radio host. He was I forgot the name. I wrote it down originally. I think it was Robert Cramping or John Cramping, whatever. He was basically a religious talk show host, and he was going on about the rapture, which maybe some of you remember. And I'm not talking about Rapture from BioShock. I'm talking about, like, the rapture happens and everything just ends. And how it was coming, etc., etc., etc. And for whatever reason, this was all over the news. Like, this is the real one. Like, this will be the actual real rapture after years and years of basically just saying this is going to be it. And, it was written about in certain religious texts and all this other sort of stuff. Now, I only knew about this because it was on the news. I didn't really listen to the radio, and if I did watch the news, it was basically getting dressed to go to work in between reruns of Wacky Races on Boomerang. So I heard about this. I didn't really think much of it, and at work, people were actually talking about it, going like, "Oh yeah, it's the rapture. The world's gonna end, and all of a sudden we're all just gonna be dead." I'm whatever. Like, it makes no difference to me. And I will say, it was at this point in my career, back when I was in hospitality, this is where I started to, not to sound cocky, make money. Like, was it amazing money? No. Was it a decent amount of money? Kind of. Did I have expendable income? Was I able to leave the air conditioning on overnight? Yes. I didn't have to rely on candles anymore. And fans and, basically sleeping with no blankets or anything during the summer. So I had more expendable income than I truthfully was used to at that point. And me, thinking that I'm a pretty disciplined person, wanted to save as much of it as possible. Rainy day fund. You never know what's going to happen. And to this day, I still am, believe it or not, pretty calculating when it comes to money. Like, I remember those days, and I do not want to repeat them, as it were. So it was not a good time. But all this talk about the rapture really made me consider or start to question my discipline. Like, where is the point where discipline is just dumb? Like, where is the point where discipline literally stops you from doing something you want to do, or something maybe you shouldn't do, but it would be fun to check it out, or better yet, just enjoy yourself and enjoy your life. FOMO. Unfortunately, I am still a very disciplined person, And I do deny myself a lot of, I'll say, fun stuff because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen to me, the people around me, the people I love, the people I care about, stuff like that. But all this talk about the rapture stuff at the time made me think about it and go, you know what? If all this were to go up and over, what do I want to do? What do I foresee myself wanting to do as kind of like, a last stand, right? So the day of the rapture came, and I went to work as normal, and nothing happened. And I couldn't help but shake that thought. Like, what if? Like, I literally am eating in the employee cafeteria at the hotel because they fed us twice a day to save money on food and all this other stuff. I can afford my own food at this point, Like, why am I doing these things? Why am I not allowing myself to enjoy myself to an extent? And I started to get into YouTube at the time. Around 2011 is when I got on YouTube, but that would come much later in the year, I think, if I remember. But I was watching video game content. I was about to say content creators, but they weren't known as that back then. YouTubers. And, I was watching the likes of Scott Lewis, Nostalgic Dan, Quick Freeze 4, if any of you guys are watching this, holy shit. Techno Squeak, Pete Dorr, of course, Games Ready 1, Happy Console Gamer, Jason Heine. Who else was there? Trying to think. Retro Snow, the original completionist, not the other one. Who else? There was somebody else. Grimsy42, I think, was doing videos at that time. Bithead 1000, of course, but I didn't find him till much later. But anyway, the list goes on and on. And YouTube was a very different place back then, where it wasn't like it is today, where everybody, I'll say, has access to all the knowledge in the world, whether it's truthful or fiction, that they could possibly want. People were holding up video games and pickup videos, and I was finding out about games I had never heard of on systems I thought were my favorite, like the Sega Saturn, the Super Nintendo. I couldn't go a week without discovering a new game. And now I had expendable income. So I foreseeably could start to purchase some of these old games I had given up and lost over time. And it was also around this time that my uncle had passed away. And for those of you who haven't been around since the beginning, my uncle's the one who really got me into video games, and he was the one who really encouraged me to enjoy the hobby as a kid. He was the one who bought, I'll say 99.9% of the video games I had as a kid. The ones my parents gave to me, he bought and gave to them so they wouldn't feel left out. It was that sort of thing. So, me coping with his loss, I decided I was going to start to collect video games. Primarily the ones I had as a kid. And then, upon watching YouTube as these things go, it's kind of like a drip feed of information and options and things you never heard of. I originally was like, okay, let me only buy for what I physically own. I could play PS1, I could play PS2, I could play Dreamcast, because I still had my childhood Dreamcast, and I had PS3 and a Wii. Backwards compatible, so I could play GameCube as well. And I had a DS, and that's still a lot. But, I was getting stuff like Star Ocean Second Story. I think around that time I had tried to track down Valkyrie Profile and could not believe how much it was. Like, at this point, prices had started to steadily go up as, YouTube and video responses and all that stuff was kicking off. So, did that for a bit, was collecting here and there, played around on Pete's Game Room forum, didn't really post on it, kind of just lurked in the background. That tends to be what I do. But now they're talking about the rapture again. And I'm like, all right. This is stupid. Like this is like the fifth time that we're talking about this in a given year. But apparently this is the one. This is the one where everything is going to go under. This is it. be ready. And I don't even remember the date, but I remember thinking about it going, it was like a Friday or something like that. It was a Thursday or a Friday. And at the time, I was so into collecting, and I was so into trying to reclaim a piece of my childhood and those memories of my uncle with the games he had bought me, since I didn't keep all of them. It really got me thinking once again, am I being too disciplined? Am I not allowing myself to venture out of my comfort zone and do something absolutely ridiculous? Now, for some people, that means bungee jumping, which I've done. Never will do it again. Some people, that means jumping out of an airplane with a parachute. Some people, that means getting a tattoo. Some people, it means like doing a whirlwind trip around the world, backpacking, all this sort of stuff, trying something adventurous, going hiking. I decided I was going to buy a video game console. The first video game console I would have purchased for myself in several years. And I had the pick of the litter. It could have been a Nintendo. It could have been a Super Nintendo, Sega Saturn, Genesis, 32X Sega CD combination. Any of that stuff. I decided it was going to be an Xbox 360. I have no idea why, but I do know why. Because I had recently watched a game collection video of Pete Dore's Xbox 360 collection. And he had mentioned somewhere in that video that certain third-party games tend to run better on the 360 after they figured out the whole Red Ring of Death thing. And the Xbox 360 actually had some exclusives. I'm like, okay, exclusives. And I come to find out that the Xbox 360 is a haven for shoot-em-ups, shmups, shooters, whatever you want to call them. Now, shmups were never a favorite genre of mine as a kid. But for whatever reason, once again, I know why, I wanted to play shmups. I wanted to play Death Smiles. I wanted to play Odomedius Excellent. I wanted to play Raiden 1, 2, and 3. I wanted to play all these random arcade games I had only seen a handful of times. When my parents used to take us to the beach, me to the beach, out in Long Island. And we would go, they would leave me in the arcade because at this point I was sunburned and looked like a lobster. But I had no nostalgia for these things. But once again, I'd seen a video on Xbox 360 exclusives, hidden gems of the Xbox 360, shmups, top 10 shooters. I discovered Studio Mudprints, and I consumed every bit of media they had on their channel. I wanted to play shmups until the end of days. As somebody who had no nostalgia behind them whatsoever, and I wanted to take my money that I had saved and not allowed myself to spend and to buy an Xbox 360. I would have been better off buying a Sega Saturn, because there's a ton of shmups on that. But no, I was determined to get an Xbox 360. So, I did the only logical thing one could do in this situation. I called my mom, and I told her, hey, listen, I heard on the TV the world's going to end. And she went, Jesus Christ, Alex, don't tell me you believe that shit. And I go, no, apparently this is it. This is the real time. It's going to happen this time. She's like, so what are you calling me for? And I was like, listen, it's going to happen at midnight on like Friday or whatever. I'm going to call out sick from work. At that point, she was like, Alex, you shouldn't call out sick due to, Armageddon. You should really go to work, because she's old school like that. And I was like, no, I don't want to go. You should call out too. And she goes, for what? Like, I'm not wasting a sick day on this stupidity. And I go, but what if it really happens? And she goes, all right, fine. I'll call out sick. You call out sick. You'll spend a day with your mother, and then that's it. I was like, all right, cool. So I call out, she calls out. And funny fact about me and my mom, at the last hotel I worked at, before she passed away, we had a joke where I would call her every morning when I got to work. And if I didn't call her by 10 o'clock, she would call me to make sure I actually went to work and wasn't playing hooky. So there was one time I called her at 10 o'clock because she never called me, and I never called her. And they told me she called out sick. So I texted her, WTF, you called out? And she goes, what, I'm supposed to tell you too? Jesus Christ, it's bad enough I have to email 5 people. I'm on death's door right now, you know? But anyway, so back to the story. So we meet up. It's like around noon. And my mom was an avid shopper. So she goes, we'll meet by Bloomingdale's. I'm like, oh, no. We're not meeting at Bloomingdale's, because if we meet at Bloomingdale's, that means Alex is going to spend the whole day wandering around Bloomingdale's. Alex wants to have fun with his mom, you know? So I was like, no. Let's meet at downtown. Let's meet by Union Square, because we used to live around there. So she goes, all right. So we meet up. We have lunch. We have a fun day together, just wandering around. Went to the old neighborhood, went down to what remained of Orchard Street, because at this point it had already gentrified a lot. And we just reminisced and we talked about a bunch of stuff, because even though I talked to her fairly regularly, I didn't see her all the time. It was more, which is weird because she literally worked 5 blocks from where I worked at the time. So we do all that and we're walking by a GameStop. And I go, hang on, I want to stop in here a second. Again, Alex, Jesus Christ, Nintendo still? I'm like, no, Mom, we're not here for a Nintendo. We're here for a Microsoft Xbox 360. And she goes, a computer? Wait, the Windows people? Like, as we're walking the door. So here comes, the 20-something-year-old with his hood up, because now at this point he's embarrassed, because his mom goes, oh, the computer. Like the computer. Oh my God, so embarrassing. So we walk in, and for whatever reason, there is a special deal on Xbox 360s that day. Originally, I was planning just to get a used one. You could get a brand new 250 gig Xbox 360 with the Kinect and a $100 gift card for the price of the console alone. So I tell my mom I'm going to buy this. And she goes, don't you have a Nintendo? And I go, yeah, no, this isn't Nintendo. She goes, oh, it's a PlayStation. I'm like, oh my God, you learned a new word. She slaps me in the arm. The guy behind the register is cracking up. I'm like, hey, can I get an Xbox 360? And he goes, oh, yeah, sure. Do you want the deal? And I go, yeah, please. So he rings it up, and it comes out to I think it was $249, $250, something like that. And my mom's like, this is a lot of money. Do you have this? Because she'd truthfully never seen me spend anything above $80 at that point, physically, because I was always so conscious about my rent and everything else. And I was like, and when I took this new job, I actually got a raise of about 10 grand. So, that's nothing to bat an eyelash at. So I said, no, with the raise, I have more expendable income. And honestly, I don't really spend much on anything except lately, because I've been buying a ton of video games, So she's like, oh, okay. Well, if you need help, I'm here. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I got this. So after that, they give me the system. Then they give you the gift card. And I'm like, okay, cool. So do I have to leave, or can I use the gift card to buy some games? And the guy's like, no, you can do it. We just can't ring it all up at the same time. So they're okay, cool. So I wander around the store, and by chance, and I say by chance for the sake of dramaticism because I looked it up previously, this GameStop happened to have all the shooters I was interested in. We had Raiden Fighters Aces. We had Raiden 4. We had Death Smiles. We also had a compilation of Rez and E4 and Lumens. And we had 2 Human, because I wanted 2 Human for some reason. And we had the first Dead Rising. And we had Gears of War 1. I bought almost every single exclusive that they had. And I had immediately established a small Xbox 360 collection for myself. And I had money left over because of the gift card. And I would use that for more 360 games down the road. And I think I eventually used that to buy Gears 2. As well as, I want to say, I think Sonic 06, which I never played, actually. I think I returned that, which is strange, because as of this recording, I've wanted to play that for whatever reason. But anyway, so after that, I was walking around this massive bag. I hung out with my mom for a bit. And she goes, okay, so what's on your agenda for the rest of the day? And I go, well, nothing, because there's no tomorrow. And she's like, Alex, there's going to be a tomorrow. And I'm like, no, this is going to be it. I partially bought this because I wanted to, do something I'd never done before as a way to kind of just say, if this is going to be the end of days, let it be the last possible thing I would do, which is to buy a brand new Xbox 360 in the year 2011. Okay. I'll call you tomorrow morning. Literally what she said. She gave me a hug and a kiss. She got in a cab and she went on her way, and I went home. Now I'm home. I hook up the whole thing, set myself down on the couch, and I go, you know what? I'm going to do something I never normally do on top of this. I'm going to order takeout Chinese food. Because I had not ordered takeout Chinese food for at least 2.5, 3 years at this point. Maybe a little bit less. Maybe closer to like 1.5, 2. Maybe 2.5 maximum. So I call up the local Chinese spot, and I order, and mind you, this is Americanized Chinese food, so please don't take this the wrong way. I ordered crab meat rangoon. I ordered steamed pork dumplings. I ordered General Tso's chicken, and because I wanted to be healthy, I got brown rice. I then went to the supermarket. I bought 2 Hefeweizen, and I bought a handle of Jack Daniels. And I told myself I was going to eat Chinese food, give myself the itis, I was going to drink beers, I was going to do Jack Daniels shots, and I was going to play shmups until the world foreseeably ended. Let me tell you, that was the best evening of my life for the longest time. I truthfully do not like to play games when I'm intoxicated. I don't. But Death Smiles, which admittedly is a very easy, beginner-friendly shooter, was the perfect game to be playing at that moment in time, as drunk as I was. I don't even remember anything that happened other than me having a good time. But I remember having General Tso's chicken sauce all over my hands, fumbling around like this, and I played through Death Smiles at least 3 or 4 times. With all the different characters unlocking trophies left and right. I had a blast. I had an absolute fucking blast. And then I woke up the next day. In my bed, luckily. One over here. And I had a hangover. As somebody who doesn't usually get hangovers, for me to get a hangover, that means I really, really overdid it. I had a hangover like you wouldn't believe. And I was like, oh my God. The sun. My head. Wait a minute. The world didn't end. What the fuck? I thought my phone rang. It was my mom. So we're still here, huh? Let me tell you, of all the dumb things I have done in my life, I do not regret this one at all. And that is because as dumb as this story is, and as dumb as I was being, because honestly I thought it was a load of rat shit to start, part of me wanted not to believe it, but part of me wanted to use that as a reason, as an excuse to try new things, to do things I wouldn't normally do. And I did. I bought a brand new video game console. I had never bought a brand new video game console. I bought a DS when I got back into Pokemon, but that was like reduced $149. I had never spent over $200 on a video game console, let alone a $350, $400 shopping spree between that and a gift card. I had never done that, and I was in my early-ish mid-20s. The most expensive video game I had bought up until that point when I got back into collecting was $50. There was something liberating about allowing myself to be a little bit less disciplined. I was letting myself, and don't take this the wrong way, live. Because in today's world, and as somebody who is very, very strict with himself with a lot of stuff, sometimes when you let your hair down, you know you need to let your hair down. And I had been so disciplined up until that point, I was using this whole thing as an excuse to have a little fun, to be a little irresponsible. My mom thought I was being dumb, and she told me years later, she goes, listen, Alex, if you want to have a good time, you have to have a good time. And I'll never forget, and I don't believe I've ever mentioned this in any other video before. Some of you do know, my mother passed away a few years ago. She was in an accident while on vacation. And my mom and I had a very sick sense of humor. And some of you guys know I have a pretty sick sense of humor. So before any trip, whether it was them, me, or any sort of life big event, going to the doctor, annual physical, okay, we're going out for dinner. Because you don't know what's going to happen. So before they went on a vacation, anytime they went on vacation, my folks, that is, we would go out to eat. And usually we would pick a restaurant that we'd never been to before. So in this particular instance, we went to Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse. And I'd never been, my mom had never been. I walked by it all the time because where I worked at the time. And my parents were going to be going on a cruise to Bermuda. And it was, I think, a 2-week long cruise. And, I remember joking with my mom going, I can't believe you became cruise people. And she goes, what are you talking about? It's a fun time. She goes, us old people just sit by the pool, we roast, and we eat a bunch of sodium-laden buffet food. We drink like fish, and then we come home, and then we feel bloated for the next 6 months. It's great. It's like, yeah, whatever. But the trip before that, my parents had gone to Greece, which is a bucket list place of mine. And they had gone to all the historical sites, and they'd gone to Mykonos, which is where my wife and I want to go eventually. If we haven't gone by the time I put up this video, whenever that is. And my parents did all that. And I remembered that when they came back from that particular trip, I was like, how was it? Like, I was super invested. I wanted to know how it went. My mom said it was the worst trip of her life. And I was like, oh no, like what happened? Da 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 da. And she said, Alex, we're in our 60s. Your father's in his 70s. What do you think Greece has? All the historical sites are steps. Steps everywhere. Your father has 2 knee replacements and a spine fusion. I'm just old and bitchy. I had it good. She said they couldn't keep up with the tour groups because my parents were those people who went on tours for everything. And by the time they found a place to sit down, they didn't want to get back up. She said they literally skipped the Pantheon. Like, they were just like, forget it. Like, it's too much. So, thus they became cruise people because they could sit around and still take in sights, and it was a little bit more, lackadaisical. So, we're at this dinner and whatnot, and at this point, this is when I was really starting to talk about going to Japan. Because I literally talked myself out of it for various reasons over the course of, I'll say 5-6 years at that point. And we finished dinner, and my mom gave me a stack of paperwork, because that's what she always did, and that stack of paperwork was emergency numbers and everything else. I had like 20 copies of them at this point. And I was like, Mom, and she goes, okay, fine, I won't give it to you. And she took it back. And she gives me a big hug, and I give her a big hug. And she looks me dead in the face. And she goes, Alex, don't do what I did. Don't do what you want to do when you're too old to do it. Okay? And I said, yeah, whatever. Like, I didn't think much of it. Those were the last words she said to me. And it makes me think back to this instance where I was doing something that, honestly, I wasn't too old to do it. But I was finally in a place in my life where I was able to do it, and I allowed myself to do it. And I think that's where my mom was really trying to teach me. Because she had always, my mom was the breadwinner for the family, truthfully. And she always put everybody else before herself. So when I moved out, and when they sold their original apartment, and they got a rental through her company, and they have much more expendable income. And I told them, you guys should start going on vacations, because honestly, the last time my parents went on a vacation before all this was when I was like 5. And I went with them. It was, the family European vacation. And what do you think we did? We stayed with friends. Which is fine, but, we just didn't have the money for it. We had money for the plane ticket. But, those words stuck with me. And I would say it was a catalyst for a lot of stuff. I'm still very disciplined with myself with a lot of things. But there are instances where I think back to those words that she told me. Do it before you're too old to enjoy it. It's very powerful, and it can apply to a lot of different things. I remembered these circumstances of events, as I said, because my memory gets triggers, over Chinese food. I had ordered, believe it or not, orange beef. Again, Americanized Chinese food. I had not eaten orange beef for at least 10 years. I eat Chinese food, don't get me wrong. Like, I haven't cut that out of my diet altogether. But I usually get something a little bit more, I'll say, quote unquote, authentic, or as authentic as you can for Americanized Chinese food. But orange beef is like, we're talking like, drunk bus to a ham. With pork fried rice and an egg roll. I was sitting there with my wife eating orange beef, and she's looking at me like I've never seen him eat this before. And I said, I remember when I bought an Xbox 360. And she goes, what? And I go, yeah. Because I got drunk. I ordered crab meat rangoon. She goes, wow, I haven't heard that in a long time. Because no place up here does crab meat rangoon anymore. And I go, and I ordered General Tso's chicken. And she goes, get the hell out of town. That was like 20 years ago. And I'm like, yeah. Huh. And she goes, what made you buy it? And I go, oh, because of the rapture. And she went, what? The end of the world thing that was supposed to happen like 10? And it literally, the whole thing just spiraled out. And I think that's really like the funny thing about how all this stuff happens, right? And it literally happened because I decided that particular moment in time, that evening, ordering Chinese food, I was going to get something that was out of my comfort zone for the longest time. Because I usually try to avoid fried stuff, especially saucy stuff, and stuff I know has a ton of MSG in it, even though it's delicious. I decided to enjoy myself, and I was able to remember a really funny memory of me trying to justify enjoying myself by being ridiculous. And then that made me remember those very wise words that my mom told me. And that to this day, I honestly have done a very shitty job at acknowledging and trying to remember. So, from me to you guys, do what you want to do before you're too old to do it. But within reason. I've been Alex, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.